Well, Shabbat Shalom. This is Barbara, and I'm serving as your host today. I want to welcome everyone to the Sabbath Day conference call, and Brother Pete is here as your co-host.
Yes, welcome aboard. We're so glad to have you be a part of this.
And today our title is, What is a High Sabbath? If you're studying about the lunar Sabbath, this might be a question that you have. Is the High Sabbath a weekly Sabbath? Well, the term High Sabbath is found in John 19:31. Therefore, because it was the preparation day, that the body should not remain on the cross on the Sabbath, for that was a high day, the Jews asked Pilate that their legs might be broken and that they might be taken away. These scriptures are translated using Greek. We understand that it was an important event. This comes through the translation of the Greek word megale. And the word is referring to the importance of that Sabbath and nothing more. And megale is Strong's number 3173. The Greek word megale means to be great, to be loud, to be large. And then we see again in John 19:31, for that Sabbath was a high megale day. The word megale is referring to the importance of that Sabbath.
In John 19:31, therefore, because it was the preparation day, that the bodies should not remain on the cross on the Sabbath, for that Sabbath was a high day, the Jews asked Pilate that their legs might be broken and that they might be taken away. We see here Strong's 3173, megale, a high is the translation. And we're looking here at the biblical calendar, Yahweh's calendar, which shows us that the 15th was the Sabbath and that this is being spoken on the 14th, just coming into that Sabbath. And they're worried about that next day being a high day.
So here are some places where the word megale is used in Scripture.
Acts 23:9. And there arose a great cry. And the word megale is translated as great in this passage. Romans 9:2. I have a great heaviness. And again, this is the word megale, which is translated great in this passage. Revelation 5:2. Proclaiming with a loud voice. And here the word megale is translated loud. Timothy 2:20. Now a large house, again, the word megale is translated large here.
And great. So now in each case, the word is not referring to a different item, but rather it is describing the item itself. The cry was great. The voice was loud. The house was large. So this Sabbath was important. John 19:31, for that Sabbath was a high day, an important Sabbath.
John 19:31, for that Sabbath was a high, and it was Gadol day. That's Hebrew 14:19. In Hebrew, we see the word in Hebrew is the word Gadol, and it means to be great, to be large, to be important, to be high, and to be mighty. The King James translates Strong's 14:19 in the following manner. Great 397 times, high 22 times, great 19 times, and then you can see that various ones on down, miscellaneous even 44. So there are lots of different ways it's translated, but it's the same Hebrew word. I'm having trouble saying the word. Magdol. Yes, that's right. Pardon me.
Yeah, good. So, okay, so we've seen it in Greek and we've seen it in Hebrew. So here are some examples of the Hebrew word gadol, Strong's 1419. Here are some examples in Scripture. Genesis 1:16. Elohim made two great, and that's 14:19, two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And Genesis 12:2. And I will make of thee a great, that's Strong's 14:19, a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And then again, Genesis 18:18, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great, Strong's 14:19, great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. And one more, I think this is the last one here on our examples, 1 Kings 3:4. And the king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there, for that was the great, Strong's 14:19, the great high place. And this was before Solomon's temple was built. The great high place, 1,000 burnt offerings did Solomon upon that altar.
The Sabbath in John 19:31 is not another type of Sabbath, but rather that day was an important day because, first, it was the first day of unleavened bread. It falls upon it. 2, the weekly Sabbath falls upon it. 3, it was the day Yeshua rested upon it it was the day Yeshua rested upon after being crucified. And 4, it was the day before he rose from resting, which we are told was the first day of the week. We see in the calendar there that the 16th would have been the first day. So we see one Sabbath, we see Passover on the 14th, and then the 15th is the high Sabbath day, and then the 16th is the first of the next week.
Okay, so now the mega or full moon phase is always the second Sabbath. And the megas full moon, this is Strong's number 3173, megas pronounced megas, and it shows here all the explanations. And of course, exceedingly great and high, large, loud, mighty.
Revelation 6:12. And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. In the ESV, Revelation 6:12 is, when he had opened the sixth seal, I looked, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as soft sackcloth. The full moon became like blood. Strong's 3650, we have halos, whole, complete, and we have the rest of the things there. You can look that up on a Bible Hub or Blue Letter Bible and give you similar definitions. You can see the evidence of this directly. So Strong's 4592 is the word selae, which means moon, and 3650 is the word olah, or tholah, which means whole.
Okay, so more evidence. The writings of Philo are very important for establishing Judean practice and belief both before and during the Messiah's time here on earth. Philo lived from approximately 20 BC until 50 AD. The evidence reveals that Philo's beliefs were representative of those of Judaism during that period of time. Philo's writings on mating with the preliminary studies, and I'll leave all these links below for you, for it is said that in Scripture, on the 10th day of this month, let each of them take a sheep according to his house, in order that from the 10th there may be consecrated to the 10th, that is, to Yahweh, the sacrifices which have been preserved in the soul, which is illuminated in 2 portions out of the 3, until it is entirely changed in every part, and becomes a heavenly brilliancy like a full moon at the height of its increase at the end of the 2nd week. So for those of you that might be new to the feast, on the 10th day of the month is when the lamb was to be taken. And then you all are familiar with on the 14th, the day of Passover, is when the lamb would be killed. And that 15th was the 2nd week of the month, and that was the first day of unleavened bread. And then also down here, there's same numbers you'll see. You'll see New Moon Day begins the month. There's that day 10. There's 14, and a full moon in the middle of the month at the 2nd week.
And in Philo's special laws, too, the 5th festival section, it says, and this feast is begun on the 15th day of the month, in the middle of the month, on the day in which the moon is full of light. In consequence, on the providence of Elohim, taking care that there shall be no darkness on that day.
Well, that's true. There'll be no darkness day or night, because when there's a full moon, the sky is lit up, isn't it?
Yes, and that is the day in which the moon fully rules the whole night. Philo's readers and fellow Judeans of that era understood that the weeks were by the moon, and at the end of the 2nd week there would be a full moon. This statement needs no interpretation. The people understood that the weeks were by the moon, same as in the Bible. The sacred 7th day of the week, which comes at the end of the 2nd week, must be a full moon Sabbath. And that taken from Hope of Israel. You can look up that link right there.
Yes, and a lot of this information did come from that site. So the Decalogue, I'll give that over to you, Brother Pete.
Sure. The Decalogue 30, page 159. But to the 7th day of the week, he has assigned the greatest festivals, those of the longest duration, at the periods of the equinox, both vernal and autumnal, in each year, appointing 2 festivals for these 2 epochs, each lasting 7 days, the one which take place in the spring being for the perfection of what has been sown, and the one which falls in autumn being a feast of thanksgiving for the bringing home of all the fruits which the trees have produced. Quote, the 4th commandment, which treats of the Sabbath day, must be regarded as nothing less than a gathering under one head of the feasts and the purifications ordained for each feast. The proper lustrations of the acceptable prayers and flawless sacrifices with which the ritual was carried out. By the 7th, I mean both the 7th, which includes the most creative of number 6, and that which does not include it, but takes precedence of it and resembles the unit. Both these are employed by him in reckoning the feast times. And we see there on the biblical calendar, of course, they're identical calendars because they're both registered with the moon. And we see that the first festival, the Pesach, would be starts on the 15th and runs through that continuous week. And of course, that's the Feast of Unleavened that runs through that week. And then in the fall, we see that Tabernacles is started on the 15th and runs through that following week as well. Both of those being the full moon.
So facts, yes, that's right. Both were at the time of the full moon, the second week. Facts from Philo's writings. Fact number 1. The full moon is at the end of the second week, whereas it has been argued by those determined to oppose Yah's truth that the weeks had nothing to do with the moon. Fact 2, they state that the full moon is on the 15th. Fact 3, Philo teaches that the 15th begins both of the 7-day feast festivals each year, Feast of Unleavened Bread and the Feast of Tabernacles, which is the same 15th full moon that is at the end of the second week. And this is impossible with the Roman or Gregorian calendar that we keep today. The question is, could this same 15th be the weekly 7th day that the festivals are assigned to? Philo clearly says that both of these festivals have been assigned to the 7th day of the week. Yes, it is the 15th that is at the end of the second week, and it is the 7th day of the lunar week, and the same 7th day that begins these feasts. So what is a high Sabbath? Well, we found out high in the Hebrew is gadol, and it means to be great, to be large, to be important, and to be high, to be mighty. And also high in the Greek is megale, meaning to be great, loud, or large. The words gadol and megale are referring to the importance of that Sabbath and nothing more. So the 15th is the weekly 7th day that the festivals are assigned to. It is the time of the mega or full moon. The 15th of the first month is always the first day of unleavened bread and is always the second weekly Sabbath. The 15th of the 7th month is always the first day of tabernacles, and it is always the second weekly Sabbath. 2 Sabbaths always following on the 15th cannot occur on a solar Gregorian calendar. So, as we have studied, the 15th is always the second weekly Sabbath. It falls at the time of the mega, the full moon, and the second Sabbath of the month is a high day because of the mega moon. Isn't that right, Brother Pete? Do you have any comments for us before we close?
Yes, that is exactly correct. And I think that one aspect that shows up in the word megla that I think modern readers, modern English, we don't catch. We speak in superlatives. If you ask for a great shake in the sense of large, you would think it is supersized. But megla seems to represent something that is full. It's up to the max. That's what the size is. And what is the full moon? It is the moon full. Full of what? Full of light. It is a megla moon.
And so that is why it was called a high Sabbath. It was a feast day, but it was also the time of the mega moon, right?
Yes. Both. Yes, you're right. The importance of that Sabbath. And that's one thing that I think readers often miss is they look at that as being a special kind of Sabbath, and they think, well, every Sabbath is the same, right? Because they're used to tracking it consecutively, and no seventh day is any different than any other. They're all washed. But in a lunar system, the Sabbaths have particular characteristics, particularly when they fall on festivals. So the concept, yes, there are different Sabbaths in the lunar system, but they are not in the Gregorian system. So it makes perfect sense inside the lunar Sabbath system that it would be a high or special or Sabbath of the full moon.
Okay, well, thank you, Brother Pete, and thank you, everyone that's here today. And to access more information about the 15th and the 8th and the 22nd, all the Sabbaths that are in creation that Israel kept and that we are to keep, that calendar in the heavens, please go to our website, lunarsabbathday.com. So we'll say shalom, shalom for now. Thank you.